Are you planning to renovate your kitchen and looking for decoration tips, practical renovation tips, and real renovation advice? Pay attention because you're watching the right video. Grab a pen and paper because I'm going to give you 15 items, 15 tips and ideas that you can implement in your kitchen renovation to have a functional, beautiful, up-to-date, and modern kitchen. Hey guys, how are you doing? All good? I'm Ed Parquiteto, and in this video, this content is here to help you avoid making mistakes in your kitchen decor so you don't end up doing any work or execution that you'll regret later, okay? That's really important too. Some of these you're going to completely agree with me. So write them down, grab a pen and paper, and replay the video because I'm sure it's going to help you. If you're renovating your kitchen, if you're building, or if you just want to give your kitchen an upgrade, these 15 simple ideas that I'm going to share with you right now are really going to help you. First tip, guys, have a backsplash made from the same material as your countertop. Imagine that you have your countertop in white granite, that white stellar, white quartz, and so on. Instead of having a small backsplash and tile, you use the same backsplash material as your sink. So look how interesting this is here. In fact, if you do the math, it's even affordable, even a good cost benefit. Why did we use the full backsplash on that countertop of ours? Imagine that you're going to have white stellar granite or white stellar quartz on your sink countertop anyway. Okay? We're not going to talk about the material itself here, but let's talk about the style, the design you're going to have for your backsplash. Then you bring your countertop, your beautiful stone, that's nice. And then instead of having that little backsplash of 10 or 12 centimeters, you raise the entire backsplash using the same material as the stone. You'll place your stone and add the backsplash there. Aesthetically, it looks nicer. You won't have that raised detail there, that little notch from the backsplash. Okay? Aesthetically, it's better. It gives your kitchen countertop more presence. Another thing that's interesting for you to consider and figure out if it's really going to look good or not. No, it depends on the material. Some countertops have very expensive materials per square meter, so choosing a backsplash is often a better option. Now, if you're going with an average price, okay, a base price here for more common materials, like granite, for example, or quartz. When it comes to buying porcelain tiles, the mortar or the grout, and the labor costs for the porcelain tile installer. And then you bring that into the stone fabricator's quote. You'll see that it comes out about the same. Let's put it that way. The same budget you would spend to put that piece there, that wall of your sink in porcelain tile, is the same amount you would invest to have, instead of a small backsplash, a full backsplash on your countertop, on your sink. Okay? Between the countertop and the upper cabinet there. Usually we always have the upper cabinet. So the first option here, the first tip I want to tell you is, instead of using a small backsplash, let's try to use a full backsplash there because it will look better aesthetically, and it might even cost the same as putting in the porcelain tile. Second item here, the second tip I want to bring to you, look. Leave the correct space in your baseboard. Imagine that when you're washing dishes or preparing some food, the tip of your foot keeps hitting that baseboard, so that can't happen. You need to leave enough space for your daily use. This tip here is a functional tip. All right? You're going to feel this difference in your daily life using your kitchen, making food, washing dishes, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're there leaning against the countertop, okay, your sink, and the baseboard. Some people call it the counter base. I like to call it the baseboard. It's not deep. It doesn't have an ideal depth between the end of your cabinet and its beginning, okay? This toe kick is usually made of masonry, and then its front there, some people, some decorators like to use the same material as the countertop stone. I prefer to use the same material as the floor, okay? If you're using porcelain tile there, you make the baseboard with the same material as the floor and porcelain tile. I think it looks better aesthetically. But it needs to have some depth. You can't finish the baseboard flush, level with your furniture. Because when you lean in to wash your dishes or prepare some food, the tip of your shoe, your foot will keep hitting there, and that will bother you. It can even cause back pain. So that's a tip. Even from an ergonomic point of view, it's for the health of your back. So you need to leave a certain depth in your baseboard. Like, what would be the ideal measurement for that? What I use in my projects is 10 centimeters of depth. When the furniture ends here, I set the baseboard back 10 centimeters, simple as that. Even if your foot is about size 48 or 50, you still won't hit the edge of your baseboard. So this is a practical tip. When you're working on the project, when you're making the baseboard for your countertop, pay attention to this because it will work really well for your daily routine in your kitchen. Recessed handle carved into the door itself, into your own cabinetry. Whether it's on your cabinet doors, on the drawer, or on your overhead cabinet, right? Using a recessed handle. Have you ever seen that recessed handle kind of at a 45-degree angle carved into the door itself when you go to pull it? We don't have a handle, for example, made of aluminum running all the way across the door, which aesthetically I don't like. It's not like I'm going to tell you, Ranke, remove that. No, if you have it, there's no problem, okay? Now, in a new project where you hired me to execute, to do your project, I would recommend you use a recessed handle on the door itself, on the drawer itself, okay? Aesthetically, it works better for the cabinetry. Imagine that you chose beautiful cabinetry, a nice cool color, and then you go and fill it with handles. Then, whether you like it or not, it'll break up the look of your cabinetry. So the recessed handle directly on the door or drawer is a tip I want to share with you. Very functional and also aesthetically pleasing. There are other models of recessed handles as well. Maybe you recess the cabinet or the overhead cupboard in your kitchen just a little and let the door stick out a bit, then you pull it from there. That's another style of handle as well. But this recessed handle is really cool if you do the math. What you would spend on some handle model you liked with this model here might end up costing about the same. So that's another tip I want to share with you here. Use the recessed handle in the cabinetry itself, in the door itself, or on the drawer front, instead of especially using a full-length handle. LED in the cabinet. This one is really cheap, guys. It won't increase your cabinetry budget. In fact, if you already have the carpentry done and want to put this LED in your cabinet right under your overhead cabinet, it looks really cool and it's another lighting option. You're renovating. You hired a cabinet maker to build the custom cabinetry for your kitchen. Don't forget to tell the people who are going to do the carpentry for you that you want a little LED under your overhead cabinet to light up exactly that wall above your sink countertop. Imagine that our first item here was the full height slab. You take the countertop material up the wall so there's no separate backsplash. And then you have LED in that cabinet above, which will bathe your cabinet in light. It looks really beautiful, okay? A little LED there won't cost you anything to include in the project. If you talk to the cabinet shop, maybe they'll even give it to you as a gift, okay? If you close the whole project with them. And it's really cool. It looks really beautiful. It's another lighting option for you if you really like to spend time in the kitchen, make different kinds of food, and enjoy cooking. This is the kind of lighting you'll use a lot in your daily life. So really consider having this little LED, like I already have my cabinet here. How do I get this little LED here? I'll leave the link for this LED strip in the description for you, okay? You can plug it directly into the outlet. It doesn't need a power supply, you just plug it straight into the outlet. If you happen to have an outlet nearby, even inside the cabinet where it's hidden, you can run the LED strip, which is attached with double-sided tape. Just stick it on and plug it in directly, and you have the option to light up that wall, right? In this case, under your furniture, lighting up your countertop, having a wet area that's a little bigger than usual, bigger than the conventional one. This makes everyday use much easier. Using the countertop, washing dishes, washing food, and putting the dish rack there is also very convenient. Obviously, this tip I'm giving you about having a wet area on your sink countertop is for those who have a large sink, a large countertop. If you have limited space on your sink, you'll have to work with the wet area within the actual limits of the basin, maybe just a little bigger and that's it. Right? Now, if you have the option and a large countertop, why not increase the size of the wet area? You already know what the wet area is, but I'll just repeat it here and illustrate for you. The wet area is that slightly lower area that surrounds our basin. Exactly so that when I'm washing dishes, washing food, or doing anything there on my sink, on my countertop, that's the wet area. For example, it won't reach my cooktop, it won't reach any container or anything that's in the dry area. So having a slightly larger wet area okay? And maybe even on the right side, if you're left-handed, to place the dish rack. For those of you who don't have the dish rack built into the countertop. That dish rack on your sink, either built into the countertop or the traditional kind like I have at home. It's really nice to have a slightly larger wet area on your sink countertop. Again, I repeat, this is for those of you who have a large countertop. If you have a small countertop, limited space on your sink, there's no way to do this. But if you have the option, if you're going to renovate, build, upgrade your kitchen, or change the countertop, think about this, having a slightly larger wet area on your sink countertop. Now I want to talk to you about the layout of your kitchen. You've probably heard about the triangle layout, right? Using the cooktop, sink, and refrigerator is very functional in our kitchen, but I want to bring up this topic here to explain it to you a little better. You've probably heard some professionals say that the perfect or ideal kitchen layout is to have a triangle shape. What is the triangle layout in a kitchen? It means having the cooktop here, the refrigerator here, and your sink on this side. In other words, cooktop, sink, refrigerator. These need to form a triangle. But that's an idea that in our day-to-day design work, especially for those who live in apartments, doesn't really work. There's no space, it doesn't fit, it doesn't work. The layout is tight, the space for our kitchen is limited, so you won't be able to implement this. So what do I say? This would be an interesting idea to use in a large kitchen. Now imagine me here and you. We have apartments where our sink wall will have the cooktop, sink, just a small dry area, and the refrigerator. So everything is on the same countertop. The ideal would be to have this triangle layout, okay? To make your daily routine easier, right? Your day-to-day use in your kitchen. But if you don't have it, don't worry about what you hear out there. My kitchen didn't turn out well. My kitchen didn't turn out nice because it didn't have the triangle layout. It didn't look like what I saw on the internet and all that. Don't worry about it. Focus on using and making the most out of the usable space you have in your kitchen. And set aside this idea of the triangle layout in your kitchen a little, okay? Use what you have. Try to improve and refine the spaces you have there. If the cooktop is here, you have your wet area right next to your sink and the refrigerator is in the corner and it's working for you, it's good, you can use your kitchen perfectly, okay, there's no problem at all. This triangle layout idea is really only for when we have a lot of space and the client agrees to it in the design. Because if he doesn't accept it, if you hire me and say, but I didn't like this triangle idea, why does the sink have to be here, the cooktop on this side and the fridge here? Am I going to keep going around spinning here like a fool, like an idiot? No, okay? So do what works for you. Leaving aside this idea here that often when we're designing a kitchen doesn't work. Tile only on the wall behind the sink. What's really cool and what I've been using a lot in my projects is using porcelain tile only on the wall where the sink is, or maybe the cooktop. Pay attention because this is also a way to save money in your kitchen, all right? In my current projects, I really make a point of suggesting to my clients to put porcelain tile or a stone and so on only on the sink wall, all right? Where the sink is and where the cooktop and stove are, for example, that's the wall where we use the finish. Whether it's porcelain tile, marble, granite, or whatever. Now, covering the whole kitchen with porcelain tile or stone, I don't really like that, okay? The idea is to make the space as clean and as light as possible. Edipo Kleber, you're saying this, but what about using this paint on the other walls? Okay, kitchen, pay attention, think with me here. Look, in the kitchen, we usually have a lot of cabinets, we have a lot of cupboards, right? So that kind of eliminates the need to have tiles on those other walls. Another situation, if I just told you that we should only have tiles on the sink wall, why put them on the other walls? That's where the idea of using paint comes in. But the paint will stain, the paint will get dirty. You can use a water-based epoxy paint, which is very good, easy to clean, and very resistant. And for the kitchen wall, since there are only a few walls that will show because of the cabinets, the small can of epoxy paint you buy is cheap. You'll only need a small can and you'll be able to paint the other walls there. So that's an idea, okay? It's a suggestion that I want to show and bring to you here to have the covering, whether it's porcelain tile or some ceramic that you like, only on the sink wall, leaving the other walls free. Cabinetry without a mirror or without glass. You know that overhead cabinet that sits above the countertop of our sink? Imagine if you have a mirror, right? That has glass and a mirror in this cabinetry. I want to bring you another perspective now. Look, I brought this tip, this idea, this item here in previous videos that I asked you about, okay? Guys, what do you think? Would you use a mirror on that upper cabinet door there in your cabinet in your kitchen? I got about 90 messages here, responses to this video saying no. Look, Ed, it's hard to clean. It gets dirty really easily. Any frying we do already splatters and makes it really dirty. We have to keep cleaning it constantly because it shows the dirt more, right? So 90% of the people who answered me said they wouldn't use mirrors on these overhead cabinet doors in our kitchen. 10% said, no, I would use it, I like it, I enjoy it. So that's an opinion I'd like to know from you. Would you use mirrors on your overhead cabinet doors in your kitchen? I wouldn't, okay? I'll be honest with you here. I'll say it again. If you hired me to say, I'm designing your kitchen cabinetry today, I wouldn't use doors with glass or mirrors in that upper part. On the lower part, we usually don't use them anyway. Now, on the upper part, I also wouldn't put them exactly because it's not an item, not the kind of thing that's very functional for everyday use, okay? Imagine if I install it and a year later you complain it gets dirty so easily. Ed could have just used a regular door or cabinetry. So I'd like to hear your opinion about this item, if you would use mirrors on the doors of your furniture in your kitchen or not. Undermount sink. This here, guys, is a must-have situation for anyone who wants to have a countertop, right? A functional sink countertop. It has to be an undermount sink. This was also another question I asked you in previous videos. Which sinks would you use in your kitchen? Built in below our countertop, our material level with the countertop, or an overmount sink. The built-in sink got 95. Answered yes, positive that they would use it. The overmount sink was pretty much the one that came in last there. And the flush-mounted one was also nice, but it's a bit pricey, depends on the model. The sink that's level with the countertop is usually the most expensive one, okay? Among these three here, undermount, overmount, and flush-mounted, okay? But think about it with me. Look, it's just us sharing opinions here. I want to know what you think. I'm telling you here, and you can reply to me here in the comments. Imagine in your daily life, if you have an overmount sink, it's going to create that slight bump there, that little ridge on your countertop. And then pulling water into the sink is a hassle, right? It'll be harder for you to clean, a little bit of dirt will build up around the edge of your sink. With an undermount or flush mount sink, we don't have that problem. So what we're saying here, I want you to understand, okay? I'm not telling you to never use an undermount sink. Although if you hired me to do the project, I wouldn't use it. I would use the flush mount or the undermount. Now, it's not that you can't use it. If you like this model, there's no problem at all. But for everyday use, you'll agree with me. You're going to have a little more work to clean and maintain your countertop. Water filter. That traditional filter we have should be on the wall and not on top of your sink countertop. There's a water filter in your kitchen, which is natural. It's normal for us to have one. I have a water filter here at home. Other people sometimes have the filter right on the faucet. A lot of people like it, a lot of people don't. I'd like to know your opinion. Are you one of those who prefers the traditional filter, the one we always have, or the filter on the faucet? I'd like to hear your opinion. But what's the tip I want to share with you here, huh? Having a water filter in your kitchen is normal, but in my opinion and in my projects, I always try to put it on the wall, never on the countertop, okay? Only if there's no other way. Only if there's no way. If you're going to lose a lot of space and your overhead cabinet space is already limited, then it's fine, you can leave it on your countertop. But other than that, always on the wall. Keep your countertop free. It's easier for you to clean and do anything on your countertop. The filter on the wall is already well fixed, really nice. There are situations where you can even make a little wooden box to hide that hose and the outlet behind it, okay? I've done that before. There was a project where I did it like that. So my tip and my idea for you is, if you're going to install the filter, plan ahead, okay? As you're renovating your kitchen, think carefully. Install the filter, the water connection, and the power outlet on the wall to plug it in, never on the countertop. Now, if you already had your kitchen, if you bought an apartment or a house and you're not going to renovate it now, there's no way around it. You have to leave it on the countertop. But even so, you can still put some wall plugs there and mount the filter on the wall to keep your countertop free. It's a really cool and very practical tip for your daily life in the kitchen. A trash can on your kitchen sink countertop, would you use it? Personally, I don't like it and wouldn't recommend it for a new project. Many clients, when we're designing a project, ask me, yeah, Edipo Kleber, don't forget my little trash can, okay? Should the trash can be in the wet area or the dry area of the countertop? Pay attention to this tip I'm about to give you. Little trash can, if you decide you want a trash can on your countertop by your sink, that's fine. Okay, no problem. In my opinion, it should stay in the dry area, never in the wet area. That's my opinion. If there's no way, if you have no choice and you have to put it in the wet area, that's fine. But if the design allows and it's possible, always put the little trash can in the dry area. But I'm one of those people who doesn't like having the trash can on the countertop, okay? That's just my personal opinion. If you hired me to do the design, I would tell you, look, let's not put the trash can here on our countertop, okay? First, we can't have a big trash can on this countertop. It would have to be a tiny one, okay? Second, I don't know. I don't think having a small trash can on the countertop is very hygienic. I'm not criticizing anyone who does, for God's sake. If you have one on your sink countertop, I'm not judging. I'm just saying that in a project I would do, I wouldn't put one. I prefer to put a trash can, for example, in two situations. The regular floor one, the traditional kind where you step on it and so on, or a built-in trash can inside the cabinet itself. That's also very common. Now, on top of my countertop, I don't like it, but I'd like to hear your opinion. Would you put a little trash can on your sink countertop? On your new countertop that you're going to make there? Answer me here, like yes, I would use a trash can on my countertop, or like no. I agree with you. It has to be that traditional trash can, the floor or cabinet type. 220 volt outlet. You have no idea how much of a difference it makes to have a 220 volt outlet in your kitchen. For us who live here in São Paulo, yes, I live here in São Paulo, we have both 127 and 220 volts here, okay? But there are places here in Brazil where only 220 volts exist. And then all the appliances are 220 in those regions. It's more common in the Northeast, the South too. Now, here in the Southeast, it's very common for us to use 127 volts for all the outlets in our house. When you're planning the kitchen, think about how important it is to have at least one 220 volt outlet on your kitchen counter. Even if all your kitchen appliances run on 127 volts, but at least leave a spot for it, you know? That spot, even if it's right next to the fridge in the corner, kind of hidden and all, but at least leave a 220 volt outlet in your kitchen with a general purpose outlet so you have that option. Because at some point, when you need to use some device, some equipment that only works on 220 volts, some powerful appliance, something like that, you'll already have it, okay? So sometimes you might think, I didn't leave any 220 volt outlets here. Then, to make the change, the modification, it's going to cause a little bit of trouble, maybe even some breakage. So, are you already renovating your kitchen? Are you already working on the electrical part? Ask the electrician to leave a 220 volt outlet for you in case you need it. That's a great tip for everyone. Mate porcelain tile on the floor, okay? I'm in favor of using porcelain material, including matte finish on our kitchen floor. I've already received several questions from you saying, hey, Edipo Kleber, do you recommend using vinyl on my kitchen floor? Hey, Edipo Kleber, do you recommend using polished flooring like porcelain or any polished ceramic on our kitchen floor? I don't think so, okay? I wouldn't recommend you use vinyl flooring in the kitchen or polished porcelain in your kitchen. I'm one of those people who like to design and recommend porcelain tile for the floor to the client, okay? Always porcelain. And in the kitchen and bathrooms too, just to add, and also in the laundry room, satin finish, okay? For those of you who can't tell the difference between polished and satin, it's simple. Polished is shiny, satin isn't, it's matte. What difference does that make in your daily life? It's a matter of safety. The satin finish gives you a little more grip. You feel safer walking on it. It won't be as slippery, to put it simply. The polished one, when it gets wet, becomes more slippery. That's natural. Let's leave the polished finish for the wall. Porcelain tile on the wall, but on the floor, porcelain tile and even satin finish. functional lighting in neutral white. You need to have centralized lighting with a main fixture using neutral white. Do you want to use warm white, the warm white lighting, which is the more yellowish one for your kitchen? There's no problem at all. You can use it. If you like it and want to use it, there's no problem at all. Go ahead and use it. Now, in the projects I'm doing these days, I always recommend my clients to use neutral white on the kitchen ceiling, okay? To make the environment brighter, more pleasant for daily use. And especially in the kitchen, guys, we need to have a functional main light. Whether it's recessed lights, longer ones, or LED strips, it has to light up. It has to be functional lighting. I walk into my kitchen, press the switch, and it has to be well lit. Your kitchen is a place where you need to pay attention. You'll be cooking food, cutting food, cleaning all the time, so you need to have functional lighting. And my tip for you is to use neutral white lighting, okay? And a large light fixture with strong light output. That's the one you'll use in your daily routine. Can you have spotlights in your kitchen? Yes, you can. Can you have a light strip? Yes, you can. Can you have some pendant lights above the counter? Yes, you can. There's no problem at all. You can have different types of lighting. But the main lighting, that big fixture that's going to light up the space, that one can't be missing. And finally, guys, the faucet. I want to talk to you now about two models, okay? I'm in favor of that cleaner looking faucet, but there are a lot of people who like the professional style faucet. Before we talk about this last item here, the faucet specifically, some of the items we've seen in this video, I'm leaving the purchase links for them down below in the description. If you, for example, were interested in the built-in sink, I'll leave the link for it here in the description. The LED, that LED strip that you can put under the cabinet, I'll leave that too. So the little trash can, for example, the built-in one or the freestanding one, I'll leave those for you as well. And now the faucet. I want to talk to you about the faucet here. I'm an advocate, and if you follow me here, of using a cleaner, more minimalistic, lighter faucet, one that even has a filter in it. Obviously, it's more expensive, right? It costs more. Other people have already replied to me here saying they like the gourmet faucet, right? There's no problem with that. In my current project, I would recommend you use the smoother, more minimalistic, cleaner faucet. I'll even leave some links to a few models for you down here in the description, okay? Here in the video description. Now, there's nothing wrong with using a gourmet faucet. If you like it, think it's cool, think it's functional, there's absolutely no problem. But I prefer using a simpler faucet for one main reason. Actually, there are several, okay? There are some advantages and disadvantages to the gourmet faucet, all right? Among them, the advantage I see in the gourmet faucet is that it has good reach, it has a sprayer and all that. It will work really well. Disadvantage, it's very big. Usually a gourmet faucet is very large. It really overshadows your decor. There are different materials. If you don't buy good material, it will rust easily, right? Because it's a big faucet, if you install it directly on the sink, it will need maintenance sooner because it shakes a lot due to its size. Is that right? So, a cleaner, lighter, simpler, and smoother faucet, I think, will work much better compared to a gourmet faucet. But if you have one or if you want to install one, there's no problem at all. All right, guys? So here we have actually 15 tips, right? No, actually, it's not even 10, it's 15 tips that you can have to make your kitchen more functional. Tips that will make your kitchen work well for everyday use. Some inexpensive items that you can save money on by buying, and some of them you can already use during the setup phase of your kitchen, all right? So I hope you enjoyed and liked these items here. If you did and you're not subscribed to our channel yet, go ahead and subscribe, all right? The links to some of the products I mentioned to you are in the video description, and I'll see you in our next video. Take care. Bye-bye.